Can it be done? Absolutely. But there's a little teeny tiny investment that you need to do in order to get your site set up properly. And in order for you to be able to make money with it down the road. So we'll get back to that in a second. But you can absolutely start this business without any investment. And that's why it's such an awesome business to start out with if you haven't like a huge amount of money that you can throw into starting a business. I mean, just start writing content. It's something we can do in our own time. It's something you can do if you can speak proper English. And even if your English isn't perfect, I mean, it doesn't matter all that much. I've seen a lot of great blogs where the grammar is not on point and the spelling is absolutely not exactly there yet. But I mean, it's still getting a lot of traffic because if people can get value from what you create, you can still do this. And also down the road, you can get an editor on board. I mean, it's not that expensive. It's very, very cheap to have people just go over your content and just correct spelling errors and so on. So don't let that hold you back. I mean, I'm not from England or the US or anything like that. I've been traveling there a lot, and as you can hear, my English is all right. But back in the days, it was not all that great. And when I was writing content in English, it just really sucked. My wife is much better at it and she helped me a lot of times. And sometimes, I mean, I say stupid things and I still do mistakes. I mean, in written English and also here on the channel, sometimes I say things that's not correctly English. And that's not a big problem because you can still get value from what I'm doing. So don't let that hold you back. That's one of the main things I want to point out in this video. But you can do this with almost no budget. And let's just talk a little bit about numbers here. I did a video a while back, you can check it out up here, and there's also a link in the description where I showed you just how much content you need to crank out with sort of the numbers that I see and that I think you can definitely see too if you follow the instructions I give on this channel. So in the example that I linked to, I'm looking at how to generate $1,000 from your blog. Just from content, you know, with ads and affiliate. Just the good old basic things that everybody starts out with. Nothing fancy, just writing awesome content. And I come up with that you need around 80 articles. So a little quick math here. If you want to write 3 articles per month, that'll take you 2 years. And if you can write an article per day, then you can do it in less than a year. So this math here is done with very conservative numbers. You can definitely get there quicker if you follow all the advice here on the channel and also that I'm putting out in my course where I show you exactly how to choose a good niche and find the best topics to write on and yada yada yada. But check out the video if you want to check out those numbers. So as I said, that's also what makes this business the best business model ever, because you can get started with no budget. I mean, you can just sit on your butt and write content and let it rank all around the world and just start making money from ads and affiliate and all these cool things. You can just turn on the camera and create a digital product, you know, a video course on whatever, something that you know stuff about, or you know somebody who knows stuff about, and you can film them, show stuff to your audience, and then you can start selling that on your site or on a YouTube channel or whatever. I mean, it's such an awesome opportunity. So doing this with a site and with a blog is the way I do it. A lot of people use YouTube. I mean, I use YouTube for this course here, obviously, but all my content sites are definitely mainly built around the blog itself. And I'm starting new websites all the time, as you guys know. And you've also heard me talk about how it takes like up to a year for this initial content to rank. So those first articles on your site are extremely important. They need to be on topics where you can actually compete. And you'll also hear me talk about that. So in order to not repeat myself too much here, I'll just say, be prepared for the first content to take up to 8 or 10 months before it ranks. And after that first year, when you see the traffic on your site and those first articles now are generating traffic on a daily basis to your site, then things will get much easier for you and things will start happening on your site faster. You'll see faster rankings, you'll see better traffic with Google from that old content, that initial content you put there will now start generating a lot more traffic, and the new articles will also rank faster. I just wanted to say these things here in the beginning of the video because these are something that are really important to keep in mind when you start out a blog. But now let's talk about how to start a blog with as little investment as possible, where you're not hiring people to write for you, you're not paying people to do design on your site, you're not paying for links, you're not doing any of that, you're just trying to get off the ground with as little money as possible. So you might be wondering right now if you can start your site with absolutely no budget at all. And I mean, there are a lot of places online where you can start a blog without having to pay for a domain name and hosting and stuff like that. So you can do that on Blogger and Tumblr and Medium, and you can actually also do it on WordPress.com, which I'll come back to in a moment, because WordPress is sort of two things. You can host WordPress on your own site, or you can go to WordPress.com or blog over there on their domain. So your website will be something like yoursite.wordpress.com. But if you don't have your own domain, if you're not paying anybody to host your site, you'll be using what we call Web 2.0. It's just a fancy word for Blogger and Tumblr and all these different platforms that I just mentioned to you. So you shouldn't start out on these platforms. You shouldn't start your site on blogger.com or Tumblr or Medium or even WordPress.com. If we're using WordPress, you want to use it on your own site and not on their site. So the reason for this is it's twofold. First of all, this content that you put on some of these platforms will typically not rank very well. Maybe an exception here is Medium. They're doing a pretty good job. But I mean, how often do you meet a website from Blogger or Tumblr and these other platforms up in the search results? If you've been doing topic research like I'm teaching you here on the channel, you'll find that very often you're not seeing them up there at the top of Google when you're checking the competition. So for some odd reason, they're just not ranking as well as if you had your own domain name. So that's the main reason why you shouldn't start out there, because you'll just not see as much success. And the second reason, which is probably way more important, is that you'll not be able to make money with it. Because I mean, many of these platforms, they will not allow ads. You simply don't have access to the hosting part of the site. You cannot put ads on your site in many cases. And you'll also in many cases not be allowed to put affiliate links on your site. So you'll just be working for free forever, not being able to monetize your site, which is obviously extremely stupid. And that's also why people start a blog there and then they always migrate to WordPress later, or Squarespace or Wix or whatever. But you've heard me preach about WordPress. I'll definitely start a site on WordPress. So I'm not talking about WordPress.com where you can have a WordPress site for free. I'm talking about buying your own domain name, getting it hosted somewhere, and then have them install WordPress on that site as the content management system, sort of the software that holds your site. So that's how you should do it. And the cheapest place that I have found to get started with this, you might be able to find it cheaper, but a cheap place to do it is Namecheap. I don't talk a lot about it here on the channel. I used to use Namecheap and you can totally use them. They're fine. I just talked with somebody yesterday who's been using Namecheap for a long time with these types of sites and it's working well. I just happen to like Bluehost, so that's why I'm always recommending Bluehost. But on Bluehost, you'll have to pay around $60 to get set up with a domain name and hosting. When you go to the site, you'll see they will show you numbers like $2 or $3 per month, but that's only if you pay for 3 years of hosting, and you should never do that. I never buy anything online. I mean, any sort of services, we can talk hosting or email software or anything. I never buy anything for more than a year because, you know, things and trends change so quickly here online. So never buy hosting for 3 years. So don't do that. Pay a little bit more per year because you'll be happy you did so, because maybe in 2 years or in a year you'll need to move your site to a better hosting company because now you're already making significant money with your site. So with Namecheap you can get it sort of half price. I think it's around $30. You can get started with your first site and then you'll have the domain and you will have hosting for it. So that's the way to get started, and that's sort of the only investment you need to do. You need to invest at least those $30 to get a domain name and hosting, and then you're all set. Just have the hosting company install WordPress for you. All of these bigger hosting companies will have this one-click installation, or you can just reach out to the support, ask them to please install WordPress on the site, and you'll be off to a great start. The reason I prefer Bluehost is just because I get quicker support. I mean, they're just quicker to respond to you on the chat. I didn't find the response time with Namecheap to be as good. But that's only to be expected. I mean, if you're paying half price, it's all right that they are not as quick. So if that doesn't matter too much and you have time to sit and wait sometimes, and there's probably this queuing system that will have you wait 10 or 15 minutes if you need some support, if there's something wrong with your site. I mean, if you have the time, it's all right. You can totally go with Namecheap. It's a fine host and it's a fine company too, for sure. And another expense you can also just move off the table completely if you want to follow my advice is to just don't do link building. Don't pay for links. Don't pay people to do link building for you. It's a very complicated thing to do and you need to really know what you're doing if you want to go down that route. But if you wanted to start out this business with zero budget, just don't do any link building. Spend your time writing more great content to put up there. You'll have more fishing lines, you can say, in the water. You'll have more articles to attract traffic to your site. And you don't have to pay anybody to link build or to put links on their site to pointing to you. Those links will come naturally when you just focus on great content where you can actually rank. So check out my keyword research video, or I prefer to call it topic research, because in my book it's not so much about keywords anymore, but you've heard me talk about that. So there's that. And then I'd be careful not to follow 10 different gurus, because there's so many strategies and so many ways you can go about this. So a lot of people here on YouTube and everywhere online will tell you that you can never get a site off the ground if you're not building links. And I have shown that to not be true many times. Check out the video that I also linked to in the description and up here, where I show you exactly how quickly I see traffic on a new site with zero link building. I'm showing the exact numbers month by month, how quickly I see 5,000 page views on a brand new domain for my 3 latest sites. So it can be done. I've done it many times also within the last year, and I'm doing it right now with a brand new site again. So it's just a little advice here. Don't follow too many gurus or too many experts out there. There's so much information and you'll just get lost in it. Find a strategy and stick with it. And of course, I believe in a very, very clean and strategy that will work long term when you're not going out and trying to cheat Google. I try to build websites where I do everything exactly like they tell us. Because actually, when you do things the way Google tell you to do it, when you're not building links, you're just trying to craft the best articles. You're not using a ton of clever lists with keywords to crank into your articles to rank for stuff that they might not be exactly on point for. When you just try to create better content, Google will figure out what the content is about. They will figure out what the topic is and they'll rank you for hundreds of keywords, as I've shown you. So that's my advice for you if you want to start a website with zero or no investment. Just go for it. Don't pay for all this crazy stuff. Just find a very cheap host and cheap domain and get going and start crafting out content on a weekly basis. The more content, the merrier. So I hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I see you guys next time.